There's a place in Florida where you've got friends. We'll help you pretend if you give us those ends. Party at the Church of Scientology. Don't call it a cult, you just don't understand. Write us a check and take our hand. Party at the Church of Scientology. There's a place in Florida where you've got friends.
All right, everybody, welcome to the fucking Scientology stream. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We have a special guest. This is Jamie DeWolf. How you doing, man?
Good evening. How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a pretty amazing Party at the Church of Scientology video. I haven't seen that before.
I wish we could take credit for it, but we didn't make it. We just yoinked it from somebody else.
Yeah, it's not that much fun in Florida. I wouldn't encourage anybody to go there. I don't think it's not as much of a rocking good time as you might think from that video.
Well, Miami's a cool place, but only to visit.
That's right. That's right.
So before we get started with whatever it is that we're going to do here, maybe introduce yourself. Tell folks a little bit about what you do, who you are.
Sure. I'm Jamie DeWolf. I'm a filmmaker and performer and professional troublemaker, and also, unfortunately, the great grandson of L. Ron Hubbard on my mother's side.
Well, it's probably a good thing that it's on your mother's side. Otherwise, you might be cursed with the guy's last name, huh?
They changed their names a whole bunch of times all over the place. So I don't really know how all that name stuff worked, but it feels like my last name has pretty much always been a lie or a cover story or whatever. It just shifts from one generation to the next, basically.
So I understand that you are taking a little bit of time away from doing some video editing to join us this evening.
Yeah. I've been working on a lot of films this past couple of years, really, but when the pandemic hits, you kind of don't have any more excuses to not get film edits done. You know, I mean, they're like, so there's been an amazing volume of editing work that has flown out of my studio recently. So, I mean, it's been good. I've been shooting a lot of documentaries that have been about citywide arts programs that are really awesome, that use actual spaces. They're called open spaces, but they actually use actual whole massive public spaces to do these huge art installations that involve history and performance. So in some cases, that's literally a whole crew of aerial dancers dancing literally outside on the wall of the Tenderloin's first single residency occupied hotel that has a lot of history that going back, decades. Another one is held on Alcatraz, the prison, ex-prison, and it's all art created by ex-convicts, current convicts, and basically like repainting their prison ID and to reflect something more about their future and where they want to go, where they want to be. So there's been a lot of really interesting projects that I've been documenting, and I really don't know how I would have gotten all of them done with all that I normally do in the live performance world, but who knows? Who cares?
Maybe you found a new avenue of expertise that you didn't know that you needed because it's super boring, but you did it anyway.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, this is funny is that when the pandemic hits and everybody's in lockdown, it's like, that's not really that much different from being under a film editing deadline. You're like, well, I guess I just, can't really complain, or I can't like go to the bar after a long, sturdy night of work, So yeah, I've just been banging on projects and working on a lot of film stuff, which is fantastic. Doing a lot of directing projects, finishing projects, editing projects. So, I mean, a lot of my life has been for years an arena of live performance and filmmaking. And now one arena is currently on fire. So we're going to focus on the other one. It's pretty much how it feels.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Like, I'm happy for Kat Robichaux. I don't know, there's like that whole Bay Area theater circuit that has the big shows, and she was finally able to finish recording, and she's getting ready to release a Christmas album,
right?
And she was saying that process with the whole COVID thing on top of it just makes it like so much more fucking complicated than it needs to be. When it comes to music is one thing, but I can't imagine like the time you wait just downloading or uploading files to send back and forth.
It's actually the harder part hasn't been the editing. The harder part is actually the actual film shoots that I've done. I've done a couple in the current climate, and it's just everything takes longer. I mean, when you're wearing masks, we're all doing exterior film shoots, but I mean, it just adds all of these other X factors you don't really think about and all that. But, you know, making it happen, rolling with the punches, that's how it fucking goes. So. Yeah.
But you've also been doing some live streaming performances on Twitch with, I forget who I do sub to their channel, but I forget what it's called.
Full Tilt Social Club. It's an online venue, but yeah, doing my show Tourette's Without Regrets, the Ruckus and Rumpus review, and doing some online stuff. I've hosted a lot of vaudeville online circuses also, so there's been a whole realm of that as well. So, I mean, I think a lot of live performers are all just trying to figure out, where are these nooks and crannies that we can burrow into and smash a spotlight into the shadows, and we'll see how much longer that goes. And there's just all different kinds of live processes. I mean, the good news is that a lot of my kind of wacko weirdo community are all sort of DIY maniacs, and so we're all pretty adaptive as well as can be. We're not waiting for like any sort of sponsors or anything like that, and so there's a lot of folks who are just out there making stuff happen. But America is, of course, just on some crash collision course with Insane Destiny or some shit, so it keeps fucking it up, because then once you get things going, then it's a whole nother backtrack. But whatever. I mean, I'm one fish in a fucking typhoon of misery else right now. So nothing special about that.
Poignant.
So I wonder if you have the same relationship with video editing that I do. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. I kind of hate the tedious video editing part of it, but then when something gets done and it looks pretty good, you're like, yes.
I love the magic of crafting something that can even potentially look and feel disastrous, and you are able to turn it into something that's beautiful or powerful. I mean, filmmaking to me has always been the ultimate art form, because every tool is at your disposal. You have image, you have music, you have audio, and then in editing you also have rhythm and pacing and effects, and there's lots that you can do in order to really change the impact of it. And I love that, and I love crafting something into something that's so much better and stronger and hits harder than what you may have had just initially with the initial footage. But I absolutely fucking loathe the tedium of it. I want to rip my eyes out and jump through windows. So I have to do it in controlled bursts. I think I have a lot of artistic ADD, and so it's like sitting there just grinding on a computer. I mean, I certainly didn't get into film to stare at computers, but I think that when you direct a lot of your own projects, like I do, I direct and shoot probably like 90% of what I do. So a lot of times, even when I've handed stuff to other editors, there have been a few who've done like pretty good jobs, but there's certain projects that they're so complex, or they have a specific voice or tone to them, that I know begrudgingly that I'm probably going to have to do it myself. Otherwise, I'm going to stand over some guy's shoulder and just be like, no, back it up. No, like this. You probably just save yourself time and a lot of heartache to just fucking do it yourself.
Right. Well, it also makes you like the world's worst client, right?
Yeah, well, and it's just annoying to sit in some office and try to, I don't know, have conversations about how films and art should go, when if you just fucking do it, then you're like, all right, I meant like this. You know what I mean? So it's just all part of the process. I think that after these couple massive projects, then I think I'm going to move a little more into just concentrating on shooting fun short projects and some of the stuff I want to work on and write, because I have a couple personal pieces that are still up next on the roster, and some fun, exciting shit. And it's just documentaries in particular are kind of an avalanche, you're carving through with one little knife, and so you have to get through all of it, and it can add up. I mean, thankfully, they're all projects that I care about and are made by some really compelling artists. And I don't have to do what a lot of other filmmakers I know out here do, which is, corporate clients and I don't know, just like interviewing fucking conferences of people and pretty tedious and other equally tedious jobs. So that sounds like something I'd want to eat a machine gun. But I mean, it's also part in the process of it. I mean, I think it's really easy when you're young to get seduced in all of the cherries on top of any artistic profession. But the real grind of it is the lonely aspect. The real grind of it for an actor is memorizing lines by yourself, walking around, practicing it. It's not just, the moment that you're in the spotlight. The filmmaker, it's not just standing there as a director and ordering people around. I mean, that's actually like not in any part the peak or anything like that of the job. It's usually having something that's been a vision in your head and being able to manifest it into actual form all the way through the process from the pre-production to the point that it actually is playing on someone's screen. And that's what has always astounded me of filmmaking in general, and why I love it so much, is it's constantly proving of manifestation and like basically willing things into being. I just shot a music video recently that is about sort of the apocalyptic end times, and because no one's listening, so I won't get in trouble for it yet, but I had this idea that the performer,
this guy knows exactly where he is. He's like, nobody's listening to this. I had this idea that the musicians performing in like the end of the world, like even past now, right? Like if it was like 10 years from now and everything goes wrong. And I was thinking of like, what is the nightmare of that for an artist? And so they come out and there's this person with a gas mask, like setting up a microphone for him. And then they come out and then there's these two immense thrones made out of toilet paper that a king and queen sit upon, and then like gesture forward for the performer to sing her pitiful little song. And when I came up with that idea, because it was when everyone's hoarding toilet paper and so forth, I was like, what would the asshole.com king and queens of the world do? They would just lord it over you. Like, I will just make chairs out of toilet paper. I own it all. And so that just went from being an idea to actually having someone make these enormous thrones out of toilet paper. It was fucking incredible. I mean, this like random idea, after 2 glasses of wine and really just like kind of brainstorming different apocalypse ideas. And then lo and behold, 2 weeks later, there's this massive throne sitting on a dock made of toilet paper fluttering in the breeze. And on camera, it looks amazing. And so that to me is fucking magic. Magic makes it all worth it.
That's right. So we had Tony Ortega on last week, and he told us a fantastic little anecdote about how you threw him a surprise party, or you threw him a birthday party.
Was it a surprise? That would have been a fucking terrifying surprise party. Hey, Tony, surprise! I filled a whole theater with a horde of ex-Scientologists and clowns, comedians, and circus types. That'd have
been a great surprise party.
If I was Tony Ortega, I don't know if I would want to hear about Scientology on my birthday. I mean, it might be like the one day that I'm like, I'm good on that. I don't want to hear L. Ron Hubbard's fucking name today. Actually, I think it was his birthday. I don't remember. He was on the book tour. He was on his book tour, and he hit me up, and he's with Paulette Cooper, and an incredible book. I highly recommend everyone read it. The Unbreakable.
Little Miss Lovely, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. What a badass name. And he hits me up. He says, hey, we are coming through and we're wondering on a little mini tour if you could like maybe, set up like a book reading kind of Q&A like thing like that. And I was like, book reading? I was like, no, I'm going to set you up a show. We set up this entire crazy like game show. We called it the Holy Shit Show. And it started with Tony and Paulette. And then after was this like almost 2 to 3 hour insane bananas, like cult audience interactive game show with vaudeville and performances and was absolutely wild. I mean, I'm wanting to do that again. And actually it was going to be scheduled for August. Let me just shoot myself now. I forgot about that there was a schedule and a calendar that made sense. Yeah, we're going to do a big anyways, I'll do it again someday. All right.
If we're allowed to.
If the heavens and hells open again, then the Holy Shit Show shall return. So it was a lot of using a lot of the kind of interactive vaudevillain tactics that I use all the time as an MC and a host of shows, and using it in a very hilarious way on just even showing an audience that had ex-cult members in it that all of those cult tricks are really the same as old carny vaudeville tricks. They're still the same basics, same basics of manipulation and audience and crowd control and things like that. So it was a shitload of fun. It ended with this whole amazing sing-along, everybody on stage singing Scientology's anthem. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
It wasn't We Stand Tall, was it?
It was indeed.
Oh my
God. It was all of us.
Is there a recording of that?
And Ortega and like all of these people swaying along. It was amazing. It was great. Yeah, it has to happen again. I mean, I had such an awesome time doing it. And I think that it would be a show that I would love to figure out how to tour even and do a lot of fun mayhem with, because there's so much like just joyous stuff to do in there. And I actually have a show that I'm going to be kind of working on contextually that's around that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that Scientology is fucking fun for y'all. Not leave for like, a vaudeville show that I made. You guys have your whole show, and I am very, very grateful. I think that one of the biggest changes in the entire turn of the narrative for Scientology was when people just started openly mocking it to their face. And so obviously it started with forums and things like that back in the day. But I mean, South Park and its episode was like a nuclear bomb. And, Scientology is a pretty fucking humorless religion, but is absolutely batshit insane. And stuff that's batshit insane, I think you should call out. That batshit insanity does not deserve reverence. And that's what these things hide behind. And they use it as a shield, and it's a destructive shield of like, wait, you can't make fun of that. You have to give me my reverence because I put religion on this. And with Scientology, at least, I mean, we could argue and debate about the merits of other batshit insane religions, but with Scientology, at least, I always counter with that. It never even started as a religion, so open season on y'all. You know what I mean? Like you are never designed as a religion. That was just a change of product. When they changed Coke to they took out the cocaine in the Coke, and then they're like, all right, we're not a drug. Like, you're still a drug. You're just like a different drug.
As long as you're kind of going after something that is powerful or has power over something, or over people or over like systems, you can make fun of anything. And I think like you said, you should. Anything, especially anything that takes itself incredibly seriously and does not want to be made fun of, they make the best target.
Right. And yeah, some of it isn't even just the mockery of it, is that as how key it is to expose all of the inner secrets of Scientology. Right. I mean, that to me is the most poisonous aspect of it. When you meet people that have spent their lives and their savings and their family's savings, because they are constantly manipulated into believing that someday they're going to open this special door and this inner sanctum to this privately held information that you're not mentally prepared for. That is an absolute disgusting and poisonous practice. I mean, it's heartbreaking though when you meet those people, because it's outside of a Xenu joke. I mean, it's a lot easier, I think, for people to hear about the 75 trillion years in Xenu and just be like, oh, it's fucking crazy and ridiculous and whatever. They're not looking at the heartbreaking aspect that some people devoted years of their life to get to that point, and that when they're handed this briefcase, you know, and taken into a special room where they're exposed this truth, that they've been so conditioned and brainwashed and deceived by themselves. They have this entire apparatus that's built around to a point where when you're getting to OT level 3, you're basically almost hypnotizing yourself on a regular basis. Right. And there's really no joke in that. You know, that's really tragic, and it's something that needs to be dismantled and it needs to be exposed. Right. Because I mean, if I ever had to talk to someone like David Miscavige, I was like, look, you know, if you are so passionate and believe that you have the technology, how come probably about, you could do an easy percentage, but I would argue at least 75% of Scientologists really don't know what they fully believe in, because they haven't gotten to all the OT levels. So you don't even know. You only have half the Bible. Some of them some of them these days only have like the book of fucking Genesis. You know what I mean? And so they don't even know what is in the end pages. They don't know what's in OT level 8. They don't know where the whole thing is going. And so if you can't be upfront about that, then you're a scam and you're toxic and you need to be dismantled. And at least you just need to be exposed. Right. That shit to be handed out for free and be like, do you think that this is worth it? And the price that people have paid in order to expose OT level 3, OT level 8, you know what I mean? Like, especially back in the day before the internet, was steep. I mean, these people put their lives at risk. And, you know, I'm not saying we can still laugh at Xenu all day, and I'll go to a Xenu costume party any day of the week. I'm just saying that for people who don't know about the full gravity of it, that's what was so important about that South Park moment. It wasn't like, let's laugh at their crazy ass beliefs. It was, let's expose on national television for the whole world one of its most dangerous guarded secrets and point out how fucking ridiculous it is.
Yeah,
right,
you know,
because if you know the...
Oh, I was debating somebody on Monday about, they were complaining about this idea of cancel culture, and I brought up like what Scientology does to ex-members. Because my position on cancel culture was like that it's just a lot of times the catastrophization of criticism by the privileged. And I was like, hey, you know, people who leave Scientology, their boss was a Scientologist, their landlord was a Scientologist, they leave this place without a pot to piss in, and then somebody follows them around all the time and takes pictures of them and fucks with them when they're trying to leave their house. So like, cry me a river for like the published author who's having a sad that people on Twitter are being mean to them. And the person on the other side didn't register with them. I don't think they knew. Right. But that was like for the audience, because I was, you know, when you're debating somebody, you're talking to the audience. You're not trying to sway the other person. And it seems like knowing about Scientology kind of allows me to put a lot of like what I see other people like complaining about in the world into perspective, because, you know, not so much now. I think the cult doesn't have as much ability to go after people anymore, partly because of the internet, but just partly because I think they don't have the personnel anymore. I think their membership and their ability to recruit has been dramatically impacted by, you know, Tony Ortega's work, you know, the work of some of the other exes, but more importantly, just the internet, just the people who left and were able to pull out their phone and videotape somebody harassing them as they left their house. And you know, before the internet, when people were leaving that, a lot of people may not understand that there was no outlet. A lot of times the, you know, major news networks wouldn't talk to them usually unless they had some kind of platform already. And like, that's the part, like like you were saying, the Xenu part is funny, but the Xenu is like the gateway drug if people really want to know about what's going on. But then you get into the depressing shit.
Yeah. The depressing shit is the stuff that's not easy to explain. It's the sort of drudgery. It's the kind of constant repetitive exercises that are kind of indoctrinating you and breaking you down systemically. I mean, just that it's those sort of rituals, and it's that whole build up and what that does to you on a daily, consistent basis that is the really dangerous part. You know, I mean, all of the auditing, I mean, everything is in this cornerstone of auditing. And what's clever about the auditing is that you feel that you are getting stuff off your chest, right? Or that you are relieving some of this trauma, when actually you're like, on another perspective, you are feeding your secrets into an incredibly vindictive and aggressive machine that's going to turn on you in a millisecond if you question their secrets, you know, and they don't want to reveal any of the truth of their own. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely, the internet has changed all of it. I mean, the real history is that anybody, I think it's something that should get said more, is that anybody who used to come out back in the day, decades ago, this is in the 70s, 80s, when they would come out against Scientology would absolutely smash on them and almost completely get away with it, because they had so much money that they could just pulverize people with lawsuits, with armies of private investigators, the whole nine. And a lot of times they were basically winning in really ugly, nasty ways. And even the press didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to write about it because Scientology sued Time magazine and put the fear of fucking Xenu in everybody and sued them for years for millions and millions of dollars. Very few, if anybody, I don't know how many other institutions have done that of Time magazine. And that put a cold chill into all of this press. So then you have people leaving Scientology in the 80s when L. Ron and the transfer of power and David Miscavige is really on the rise, and even tightening the leash even more. And press outlets are terrified to talk about them. I mean, they still command an insane amount of fear on all different kinds of projects. I mean, there's all different kinds of people who are like, I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of projects that have been shot down before they even took 1 minute of flight because Scientology and the subject scared somebody off. And Scientology didn't even have to do anything. They may have never even known that the project was going to exist or was about to exist. It's just people are like, I don't want to fuck with them. I don't want to fuck with that. And that's fucked up. I mean, they shouldn't have been able to get away with all of this nastiness for so long. And it's so transparent and it's right in the open. And they're still here. I mean, like, think of all the insanity that's been said about him, everything that's come out the last 10 years. They are still here. Tom Cruise got a movie coming out next year. You know what I mean? Like, it is still going nonstop.
I don't know if you're familiar with Reckless Ben and his Scientology Sucks documentary that he did, where he just put on some, what are they, Snapchat glasses or whatever, and infiltrated Scientology and tried to do as much as he could without spending any money. Okay. And two things that you said. One is how desperate and how diabolical they are about money. And even like one very, very fine point that he kind of went through with them is like they were trying to get, I don't know, $25 or $50 from him to get Dianetics. Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, I found it on Amazon for $1. How about I just get this copy? And they're like, no, you have to get the copy from us because it's the most updated and this and that. He's like, well, I only have like $10 for food and gas for the rest of the week, and they're like, oh, you don't have any more. So he goes away and he comes back and he says that, oh, I stole my roommate's laptop and I sold it at the pawn shop for money, so here's the money for this book. But he asked him, he's like, do you think this is right? Do you think this is okay that I should, like, maybe I should take this back and I should go get my roommate's laptop and give it back to him because I kind of stole it so I could give you, but I really want to do the courses and I want the book. And the lady that he's talking to looks so fucking torn between making money for the church, or telling him, no, you asshole, you stole your friend's shit and paid fucking got it to the pawn shop, took money for it, and you're gonna join this fucking Scientology bullshit. But I think he managed to get all the way up to auditing, and then he got to a Sea Org party, and I think he did sign the billion-year contract. But he had his glasses on in there during an auditing session too. And the brainwashing, even going into it, knowing that it is a cult and that they have tactics and they will fuck you up. Like, he was in there for like 8 or 10 hours. And when he came out, his friends had to like deprogram this memory that they had warped into some fucking weird ass shit. Like, he couldn't remember the story the way it actually happened. And they had to like remind him for like a couple of hours to get all of that stuff. It's crazy, the tactics that they've just like the manipulation tactics that they've perfected. So they turn this like this depression and pain and horrible experiences into something that you should be joyful and grateful for. Right. So go bust your ass for free for the Lord Xenu. It's
a polished science in terms of how they systemically break people down. I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of stupid Scientologists. You know, I think that that's I think is really tragic about it, is that they suck in a lot of people who are looking for a better world, looking for a better version of themselves. And it's all of these tactics and these techniques. I did want to say this about money, though, because this is something also I think should be said, is that their constant hunger for money is so disgusting and flabbergasting because they have fucking money. You know what I mean? David Miscavige could sell a couple buildings right now and actually pay all of their Sea Org people like $50,000 a year. But they don't. They like basically still use this whole cult mechanics that Elrond had so that all the money could go up and go to him. And they make people work for like just gruel and like less than minimum wage and like damn near fucking slave labor. But they have the money. They don't need your money anymore. I mean, if they needed your money, Scientology would have collapsed by now, right? If they needed money that bad. They don't have new members coming in droves. They don't have enough rich members or celebrities to basically just like keep every single mission alive and afloat. I mean, they have it through all these other crazy holdings and real estate and crazy offshore markets and bank accounts and yada yada, right? So I mean, it's like they don't even need your money. What do they need that $25 for a Dianetics book? But they have this fucked up like entire structure that these poor Sea Org kids or whoever is basically having to work at that specific spot is just hammered in and made absolutely miserable, that you need to sell, you need to bang this literature out. I mean, it's like this bizarre hodgepodge of, you know, ridiculous psychobabble mixed in with this Glengarry again Ross, like telemarketing, ABC, always be closing motherfucker, like hard edge salesmanship. It's absolutely insane.
They have to fucking pay for that printing press, man. That printing press is expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's their own members like rebuy stuff. You know what I mean? When they revised and expanded Dianetics, and everyone had to rebuy those again, and you know, just this odd it's their parasitic endless mouth of greed and paranoia is part of it. It's part of the actual whole mechanic on what makes it work, because without it, they could just be transparent. They wouldn't have to have as much insane control over people, that they would be able to be open about what they actually believe. And, you know, I mean, that's to me should tell you everything right there, though, is that like in every interview that you'll see, and this is the same of Leah Remini when she was in, save it David Miscavige in his last interview, they will not confirm to you what they actually believe. And sometimes they may not. So they either know it and then they won't tell you and they're lying about it. When someone's like, but I've read in OT level 3 and the yada yada, and they're like, I don't know anything about that, or we have church belief, like they won't even admit what they believe. So that should be the motto that gets worn by more protesters, really.
Yeah, That's very true.
Just to ask him and be like, if I know what you believe and you don't, what does that say? You know?
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they get out, one of the first things that they want to do when they're sort of acclimating to this whole other reality is they want to read some of those inner writings, you know, those secret writings, because they've been held from them for so long. And once they read them, a lot of them that even accelerates them leaving, because they're like, holy shit, I can't believe that this is like what I was kept in secret for. And now I don't know what they do if you're a low-ranking member of Scientology who's maybe even heard of Xenu from some random whoever, passerby yelling out outside his car window on your way to the Church of Scientology, and then you have to spend like 10, 15 years and told, oh, we don't believe in aliens, we don't believe in any of this. Then you get to OT level 3 and you realize, absolutely, yes, you do, because the doctrine and the scripture can't change.
Yeah, the whole space alien gig would be a deal breaker for me. But like you said, the greedy and paranoia is indicative of its founder, right? I mean, those are like the core characteristics of L. Ron Hubbard, right? Is he was greedy and seemed really fucking paranoid, which is why he probably has such a problem with fucking psychology and doctors and things, mostly because of all the fucking lies that he told about his military record. And if was it Tommy Davis that fell into it? If you discredit that L. Ron actually had any sort of injury when he was in the military, because if he didn't have that, then that makes the whole fucking thing untrue, because that's the whole basis of the story. And then
cards collapses.
Yeah, and right. And then that reporter went and got all his military records and was like, bow. Now what?
Well, it's the entire selling point of Scientology is based off L. Ron Hubbard's completely fictitious / distorted / exaggerated / outright fabricated past life. And those claims of being wounded in action, being blinded, so for being paralyzed and being able to resuscitate yourself through the powers of Dianetics, that was one of his earliest claims, that's why the biography is so intrinsic to for them fighting on this kind of endless hill of just fighting for his lies and his bio and fighting against any kind of information that say otherwise, because all of it is based off this one guy's research. And if he didn't really do that research and he didn't really live that life that he said, and in many cases he was sort of a rambling disaster before he wrote Dianetics and so forth, with a bit of a con man and a hustler and a swindler, which to me is fine. You know what I mean? Like, I got friends who are criminals. That's all good. Don't try to sell me a book and tell me that you never were a criminal. You know what I mean? Like, and just like, it's like somebody used to rob banks and then they tell you that they're an expert in finance and that then you should buy their book on the best stocks to buy at a bank.
To be fair, I mean, they're an expert in a certain kind of finance. Yeah,
I mean, but like, there's a pretty integral part of that story chain there that is absolutely false. So, I mean, that's why I always come back to the L. Ron, and I always come back to that with the independents and everybody else is like, if someone is a pathological liar and then they're going to tell you, consistent, endless lies about their own life, but then at some point they say, but this itself is true, and this is one of the greatest discoveries, then, I mean, you got to throw everything out. I mean, or take him out of the equation and reduce it to its elements, which y'all pretty much stole from other sources anyways. So,
yeah, you mentioned like this sort of kind of unbelievable, like, distortion of reality, and like you have to like believe things that aren't true and not trust what people might call the official record about L. Ron Hubbard to be like a true believer in the cult. And it's really interesting because in the last maybe year to 18 months, we've started to notice that the cult of Scientology is in some ways sort of reaching out to some conspiracy theory communities, particularly like the anti-vaccine community, and that they're sort of trying to recruit in those spaces. And those are like, it's not dumb for them to do that, because those people also don't trust like medical authorities, and they have these little heroes within those movements who are also basically frauds who claim to have expertise that they don't. And it's it's almost 1-to-1, and it's kind of surprising that they didn't start doing that shit sooner, you know?
There's always going to be a world where an alternate reality is a preferable choice, which I understand. As an artist and a filmmaker, we're constantly creating different worlds for you to step into, or different artifices for you to believe in. I've also done a lot of immersive theater shows, and that's also an aspect of it, is how do we change your experience? And I understand not wanting to believe what the authorities tell you, and a lot of history is in the history books is an absolute lie, you know what I mean? And a lot of what politicians tell you is distorted for manipulative tactics. And that's kind of the problem, is that there is always some sort of basis in sanity in not believing the official story. But I think it's always like, for what and what end, you know what I mean? That's why at a lot of things I'm a little too cynical probably, but at a lot of shows or different collective, contexts, or like businesses that have this kind of fraud aspect to it, is like, if you just follow the money of it, you usually find out the true story of what's happening pretty quickly. And when it comes to stuff like Scientology, is all of their stuff against psychiatry, some of which is legit in terms of, I'm not a huge fan of electroconvulsive therapy. I don't think every kid should be on Ritalin. So like, we can agree on certain points, but that's not their point. Their point is that stuff, that the entire world of psychiatry should be replaced by Scientology, and you should all be paying Scientology to administer all of your mental health practices. That's where the full mathematical equation leads to. And so it's the same with the anti-vaxxers. Like, some of that is if that's an element of control, if that's an element of not wanting to succumb to like the pharmaceutical companies and so forth. Like, I can understand some of that, but I stop at the point where, we are going to make space for the next polio, or something like that. I mean, there's always polio. There's always going to be that fringe, that edge that is going to find, common passengers somewhere along the way and along those edges.
Right. It's like they're like, don't trust this institution over here. Trust our institution instead.
Right. I mean, it's just easier to I mean, I think that there's a certain amount of folks who are drawn to cults because they are looking for some other narrative than what's getting fed to them, right? And the American narrative is pretty distorted and is pretty wrong, especially as the financial inequity just completely spreads and becomes this wider and wider chasm, that we're sort of fed a lot of these illusions. And I feel like a lot of people walk around, or when you're a young teen growing up or whatever, you kind of have a distinct feeling that the world is lying to you on a lot of things. And it takes you a lot of research and a lot of learning on your own and asking around to figure out what it's lying about, and you have to sort of make and find your own way. And whether that's dismantling larger systems like patriarchy or racism or the American history book, the American story, to, what that is to be, just whole constructs, societal constructs of gender and capitalism and all of these different kind of worlds that we're just sort of born into in different narratives. And it's totally understandable that you have to define yourself in those and figure out what is a story that's being fed to you, and what's your story that you believe in, and what's the story that you're trying to make and you're trying to create. And I think that these cults and these belief systems, basically, they invite you to say, to the real knowledge. This is the secret, true knowledge. This is what's been kept from you, and this is why. And I think that that's always going to be a little intoxicating. I think that you see that exploding all over the place in the internet, and in terms of finding pockets and like-minded folks and kind of diving deeper and deeper. And you see that with the whole new American Q obsession, this idea of like you're a part and privy of secret knowledge. And if I told you, both of you, that I'm going to divulge a secret tonight on your show that I've never said before in a Scientology podcast, which I'm not going to do. I don't have a secret, but just by me saying that, then both of you get completely engaged and like, oh, shit. Like, we love secrets. It's just instinctive. You want to know it. You want to be like, I need to know the secret because I'm special. I worked for it. I'm here. I did the work. They're just intoxicating. And so, I mean, cults work in the same way. You know what I mean? Yeah. They if I did a live show and I had an envelope on stage that just said like The Secret, you know what I mean? And I had some audience member hand me something and I put it in there and I put it in the envelope. And we did a whole show and people are doing trapeze acts and taking their clothes off and lighting things on fire. And then the show ends and I say, thank you all very much. Have a good night. I guarantee you people would be tortured to know what is in that envelope. And they're like, how can you end the show without opening the envelope? What is in it? What is you know what I mean? It's just an intrinsic aspect of it. So secret knowledge, secret societies is always intoxicated. Look at fucking Harry Potter. Is Harry Potter that much different from what the theology of Scientology is about?
No. And I make this argument all the time. If you have grown up your whole life thinking you replace God and Jesus with Santa and fucking Rudolph, and you are told this story your whole life, would you know the fucking difference if somebody had done that with, and reversed that other thing? But the other aspect that we get into a lot here also is the cult-like mentality of conspiracy theorists. Mm-hmm. Because they definitely have a correlation in their tactics with the love bombing and the don't listen to other information except for, trust don't trust anybody, but trust what I'm saying kind of mentality. And they're, anybody that wants to dispute what they have to say or fucking mock them or make fun of them because they have stupid ideas, they block. And they, if you talk to that person or if you're caught in the same comment threads with them, then you get kicked out. But also like how quickly those little pods form online and then become kind of protected because of the way social media works. And what ad companies who are social media platforms want as far as engagement and active users will let people get away with. And that just like has, lit a extra special fucking bonfire in the middle of fucking 2020 and all this other garbage.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about what is going to be in store for all of us in America in this second half of what's already been a stellar year we keep closer on a daily basis to this impending election showdown of destruction derby of who the hell knows what. You just get in this sort of kind of powder keg of ideas, and with someone like Trump, for instance, who really is a genius at the cult playbook, you know what I mean? And it's constant binary separations. It's us, them, they're bad people, we're the true Americans, the constant separation like that and agitation. And a lot of times that gets discounted is that people constantly focus on what does a cult believe and how preposterous the beliefs are, but they're not zeroing in on one of the most integral weapons that a cult has, which is the separation. And how it separates you is by a constant sense of we are under attack. That this is an emergency, that we are under attack. America is ending. They're coming to take it over. They're going to end the white race.
We have to destroy us.
The white race. The liberals are going to destroy your city. Scientology is like they're going to destroy this world. They're going to destroy a whole species. is going to end. Waco, they are going to come for us. The apocalypse is coming, and look at, there they are. They're right outside, you know, and you're a bunch of Nazis and you march to Berkeley, and then you're like, there they are right there. They're right outside. I mean, like, you can make your own battle happen, and you can constantly create those enemies. And that sort of loathing and hatred and the arrogance and elitism that happens, I think is actually a stronger weapon than people like to think, and is a really disgustingly powerful tool. And I think people who are maybe a little less susceptible to cults, and you find this over and over in the stories of folks who join different belief systems, and sometimes they're the folks who call the horn, you know, when they are leaving or whatnot, is folks who want things to be a little more subtle, in shades of gray, you know, and when they become confused about if this is the enemy, then why is this happening, that actually shows a different side of them, or is reflective. And usually when people are like on their way out of a cult, is that it's often helped by someone who's compassionate, who's from this quote other side, that is not their enemy. And that sort of journey of realizing that this person isn't what they are described. I mean, much the same way to a Scientologist, I would be an SP, hopefully of high stature, that I've earned, right? But that, you know, I mean, that, and if I met a Scientologist who was actually wanted to have an actual conversation, right? And isn't there to just, like, you know, shoot dagger eyes at me and just pull the, like, what are your crimes bullshit. If, you know, they want to have a conversation or whatnot, I would be happy to have a conversation, because I actually have a lot of compassion for those who are locked in it and may look at me with the derisive, you know, kind of elitist sense of, like, I have no idea how powerful they are as a being, and, you know, I live a life of abject misery in the world of the wogs, you know what I mean, and that they are part of the secret elite of the best, and, you know, whatever, etc. But I know that that's been fed to them. I know that that has been gotten to a point where it's been institutionalized in them. I know some of them that are born into it. Mm-hmm. I know that it's going to be a painful process when they come out of that and they are able to see how they've been lied to. I can only imagine the anger and devastation that comes with that. And so, you know, I wouldn't be, though, like I wouldn't want to be like their enemy if someone wanted their way out. I mean, I would try to help them. And when people have reached out to me and they say, like, you know, this and this individual is inside, how can I help them? I've done it in a variety of ways. And there's really great folks to talk to that are ex-members that will help members on their way out, because they know the lingo and know that in some respects that person on their way out, that's the only language that they understand. And so they have to speak in that same language also to show you that they are not what Scientology is describing you as, you know. Right, not exactly. Every psychiatrist is what they portray them as in Scientology literature, and just the endless guys in lab coats with syringes, like, you know, shock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, paddles. They walk around with paddles.
Yeah, and it's so dated too. I mean, it's so much of Scientology is locked within L. Ron's pathology, which is long gone. We don't live in the Cold War culture, the kind of super spy counterintelligence stuff. A lot of that was like really CIA Watergate, like rogue style in the 70s. You know, like L. Ron really manifested a lot of his mentality in the actions, you know, of his entire apparatus. And now Miscavige is doing the same thing. So, you know, and I mean, they both kind of reach similar narratives, you know, in the end, is that if you're that paranoid, like, who can you trust?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And if someone's gonna question you, or I mean, look, here, let's sing a sad song for David Miscavige, right? Because you got to imagine that you come up with your posse, right? And you got like Marty Rathburn, you got
Mike Render.
You got Rinder, right? They're like, you guys are on the up and up. Like, not only did you come from the low rung, you ended up taking over this shit with your homies. You got the keys to the vaults. You got all the guns, all the money, all the power, all that. And then, like, your own brethren, number 2 and number 3 or whatever, completely turn against you, write a bunch of books about it, talk endless shit, have national syndicated TV shows about it. Like, think of how painfully bitter he must be.
Right?
Like, I think about that though, and it brings. I think about that though, and it brings me a bit of joy. You know, the Schadenfreude.
Like, you got most of the internet looking for your own wife. You know what I mean? And then, like, your 2 other folks you rose with, you have this insane. So I'm just like imagining, like, what is a night alone with him like? You know what I mean? Is he just got like scotch in a tumbler, and it can't all be what everybody thinks it. I hear a lot of, like, you know, he's just his power and is this, and I was like, that's just probably gonna be pretty lonely, man. Like, I don't know, he can't do auditing because he doesn't trust anybody anymore. You know, it's like
does he like sleep hanging upside down? Does he like is it in a coffin with L. Ron Hubbard on it?
Yeah, what the hell do you do for fun? You don't even have as many people to like slap around anymore, and just
like literally
motorcycles, Tom Cruise or something like that's, you know, I mean, it's I'm just saying, I mean, it doesn't get
it's lonely at the top.
Yeah, quote DeWolf on the sad song from Miscavige. You know, I mean, has anybody thought about his feelings for once? And
No.
But what you were saying about like what you were saying about current members, right, is if, like, I am not the right person to talk to a current member, because to talk to a current member, I think you need like radical empathy, and you need to allow yourself to ignore the things that you know about the cult. You need to, yeah, I guess just radical empathy. You can't come at it. You can't come at them hard. Like you were mentioning psychiatrists. You certainly can't just be like, oh, you're in the cult, let's have you talk to a psychiatrist. That's like the surest way to get them to triple down.
Scientology, I'm on a whole shitload of antidepressants and it's making my life better. Like, why are you going to, yeah. I mean, I would actually start with, well, I don't know what would be the correct way. And I'm sure people who are deprogrammers, things like that, could debate any one approach. But I would even be curious about just asking them, where are you on this whole bridge? I've heard about this bridge. Boy, it's a long bridge. There's lots of steps. Where are you on that? You know, how long did that take you? Do you know what's past that? Like, what happens after that? Right? I mean, it's starting to ask. You just basically ask the questions that are implicit in the religion. You know, I mean, their whole selling point, right, is this bridge, the bridge to total freedom. That means that you are not free right now. So you have to get to the end of this bridge to be totally free. So what is at the end of it? You know what I mean? What is it? And be like, oh, do you know anybody that's ever done OT level 8? I do. I know a few people have done it. If you want to talk to them, you know, and I do. I know plenty of them. And I mean, that could dismantle shit right away. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you're able to, that's just implicit. That's just built into the religion itself. I mean, but at a certain point, some of it is just, you know, going to be talking to a wall, you know, I don't know. It's like, I grew up Christian, so I understand what it's like to have those conversations, you know, and to have hitting the wall conversations and someone's not ready for it. And it's their belief system. I mean, the other aspect about Scientology is that it costs so much money. It's very difficult for people to admit, you know, get out that it's a lie. I mean, there's a lot of
sunk cost.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps to deal with that. And I mean, for the folks who are parents who brought their children into it, you know, I mean, that's incredibly devastating when you actually come to a realization that you've basically been feeding poison, you know, to your children, and they meant to help, you know, I mean, they thought they were doing a good thing. Yeah. And so, I mean, like that kind of level of pain is pretty rough, you know what I mean, in terms of those steps. And so, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's I have a lot of compassion for those who are getting ground up by it, those who think that they're fighting for a better planet and are basically just being used and exploited. And I definitely don't have as much compassion for the pit bulls, for all the people who glory in OSA tactics and the folks who have dossiers and are out like slamming and attacking everybody and coming after people like me and coming after all the people who've stepped up. I think that there can certainly be some inherent sadism, in that, targeting people the way that they do, coming after them the way that they do. I mean, there's just vicious underbelly to that for sure.
I think some of my favorite Scientology or anti-Scientology videos are the old school ones of Ron DeWolf on Morning Break. Mm-hmm. With those amazing glasses of his, and he's like on the table with the Scientology lawyer, and nobody threw any chairs, but holy shit, did each one of them throw shade. And
next to each other, basically.
Yeah. I threw the clip on the. I threw that clip on the docket.
He's like, why don't we talk about what's in here?
Yeah.
I met that was Vaughn Young, right? It was wasn't it? Am I wrong? The same video? You should pull it up. I met some of the same people that had done some of these programs and attacked Junior, and I met one of them years
later. Put it on the top of the docket, Dave.
And they actually apologized for what they had done. They had come around the other side. But yeah, it's absolutely nasty. Rondawol. Oh no, this is different. This is different. There's one with Vaughn Young where they're sitting next to each other.
That's the other one on the other PBS morning show. They're both really, really good. I just like this lady because she's sassy.
Yeah. This one is it's ugly. I mean, they're sitting right next to each other too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that Vaughn Young, I met him years later in Clearwater, Florida. And where is the part where go in like to the middle of it? Or they're sitting next to each other. Go back. I want to see where Vaughn Young is.
Before I run this video, what I wanted to let you know is that if you want to talk, just talk. The system here will lower the volume of the video for you. So like if the video is playing and you want to say something, just start saying it. The system will duck the video and I'll pause it for you. So here we go. We're going to let a little of this video roll.
Connections of Scientology to the S training and anything. And
what happens if we call that number?
Yes, it is. Werner Erhard was a Scientologist, and the beginnings of EST are the Scientology training routines, or in Scientology they're called TRs.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Hi, Dennis. This is Steve from Denver.
Go ahead, Steve. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. I have a two-part question. It concerns an article in the magazine called The Realist, which is put out by...
Is that Vaughn Young right there? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
That's him?
Yeah, I could stand to be corrected if I'm pretty positive. Let me pull it up. He actually wrote an incredible article for the media that was about how he had what Scientology's attack plans were with dealing with the media specifically. Like he basically gave them an internal document like years later and said, I used to do this and I'm sorry that I did this and here's what our strategy was. And he handed it over because they had a very specific strategy and it could absolutely be summarized with the always attack, never defend, always attack, never defend, that whole bit. Let's see.
Dude, you're one of us. Look at you all like doing research during the show. Fucking A.
Well, I just want to make sure that he was okay. I met him way years later, near the end of his life. From what I understand, I didn't know that at the time. And also, I didn't know how pivotal that was in meeting him. And, I wished I would have paid more attention to and taken notes on all the people that I was meeting when I went to Clearwater, because it was such like a crazy whirlwind. And I was 21 years old. I was like a young, insane maniac. And so there was a lot going on in terms of getting pursued and the whole nine. In either case, but also the fact that, like, in this interview, he's trying to destroy L. Ron Jr. the whole time, and years later became a whistleblower against Scientology. So that should also tell you everything you need to know. You have two people who eventually ended up both becoming ex-Scientologists and going against the church at great cost to themselves. And that's the whole story of Scientology itself. Is all of the people that have left, all of the things they've said, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling sometimes of what they've gotten away with, the amount of damage that they've done to so many lives, and have gotten away with it, or still standing here.
In all this too, like one of the things I've learned from this is that we kind of have to believe in redemption, right? Because a lot of these ex-Scientologists, the ones who've come out and are high profile, did some pretty bad shit when they were in the cult. So I think it's like really important to like kind of take that with you, that like people can be redeemed and people can do a bunch of bad shit. And it doesn't matter if you did a bunch of bad shit in the past, if you're willing to like cop to it, kind of say how you got it wrong. And then as you move forward, you do the right thing. Like, I feel like you could, there's a certain credibility and integrity to that.
Yeah. Gotta hope for that. I think you got to prove it.
Yeah, of course. You can't just be like, oh, that was all like, yeah, of course. Like if people come after you for some bad shit you did, you can't be like, well, that was all wrong. Fucking stop talking shit. That's not how that works, right? Of course. You like if you were like a bad person who, I don't know, for example, like extreme examples, you were like awful to the homeless and you tried to displace the homeless, and then like a news story comes out about it and you're like, oh, that was wrong. But then you don't take the next step to try to help the homeless, then I don't believe in redemption for you, right? Like that's not how you redeem yourself. You don't just redeem yourself by saying, oops.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of folks that have come out, and many of them have actually spent the second half of their life trying to help people to get out of Scientology and to prevent people from going in. So there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, well, shit, the way we came up, I had been to Tourette's Without Regrets, right? But the way we came across you was these Ron DeWolf videos, and then it would recommend a video from you, and some of the videos were sort of almost like TED Talk, like where you were kind of just up on a stage giving a talk about who you were. Don't get me wrong. If they let you at a TED Talk, that would be amazing. You'd turn that shit upside down. That'd be great. But what I mean is like that, it appeared to maybe be at a comedy venue, and some of the things you were saying were funny, but you were telling a real story to people that like matters. Right. And that's sort of how we came across you.
Yeah, there's the sort of the God and the Man snap judgment performance, and then that led to all kinds of shit, just endless interviews, it feels like, which I don't even know if I was ready for all the interviews it led down, but I really just sort of viewed it as a duty in some respects of like, all right, well, let's amplify this message, of what is dangerous about this cult. That's something I try to point out kind of constantly. And I really had an agenda to do that in all of the press and the interviews that I did after that performance and over the years, is that it's not just that I'm related to him and isn't that weird and they have weird beliefs, is that the story of L. Ron Hubbard as a man, as a father who indoctrinated his son into this thing, whose son ended up going against his father to try to expose something that they created at great personal cost to himself. And that led to a family that was on the run. And then the first time I spoke out about it, then the cult creation came after me as well and tried to silence me as well. And that's just simply what they do, is that I'm basically walking evidence that L. Ron wasn't who he said he was, that he had a whole family story of flesh and blood that he's not telling to his own followers. Mm-hmm. And two is that they're fucking dangerous. They're not just some wackos who believe in aliens. You know what I mean? And isn't that funny? You know, like, why don't we go have a wacky alien party and whatever? It's not that. Is that they're, look, if they want to believe in that, that's fine. And typically I say that, you know, I think white supremacists and Nazis should, from the future, be excluded from the conversation. If you can believe what you want to believe, like some of you just know you believe in fucking horrible shit. Yeah. You shouldn't believe in that. You should believe in something better. But you know, the aliens, the whatever. It's like, you want to believe that, you want to hold a little electrical, you know, unit and talk about your innermost secrets to a stranger who's recording it. Like, all right. You know, but it's the absolute malice in which that they have attacked the world, their ex-members, their current members, anybody that tries to expose what is actually the truth about what they actually fucking believe and actually do. Now, look, if you were going to be like, fuck yeah, I believe that. I believe in the Xeno and whatever, and then be like, all right, well, own up to your own badass. You know what I mean? But they won't even admit it. They will not admit it because it's part of their financial scam is right. To keep those beliefs from their own followers. Right.
Unless you want to, you pay me Okay, so like, what if I give you $300,000? Will you just tell me about Xenu? And they won't even do it then.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, it's that the inherent malice and its predatory qualities are built into the theology itself. Mm-hmm. And it's not a religion. It was never designed as a religion. It was designed as a fraudulent science. And if it was a science, if it was a corporation that tried to sell these products, that shit would have been shut down so many decades ago. Because they'd be like, this is madness. You have no evidence for it. This guy is a liar. He's a proven liar. No. You know what I mean? Like, this thing has got to go. And that's not the case. They've been hiding behind the shield of religion and their money and their little army of lawyers and all of just this whole nasty apparatus, which is why they're still here. Yeah. As of tonight.
Well, I would love to thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak with us tonight. Why don't you tell the peoples what's the next live stream or event that you have coming out that they can tune into, where they can find it, and where they can find all of your other stuff.
Gotcha. So you can pretty much find me anywhere on the social medias, Jamie DeWolf. But if you go to jamiedewolf.com, you'll see a lot of my short films, some of which are very funny and twisted, if that be your flavor. And there's all different kinds of writings and performances and all kinds of crazy shit in that little toy chest. And you can find my show, Tourette's Without Regrets, or the Ruckus and Rumpus Revival, which will be coming out pretty soon. And then, yeah, you'll find me in the apocalypse somewhere. I'll be wearing red.
We'll be looking for you, because we probably will be too, because we are comrades.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for your time.
Oh yeah,
thank
and,
you for your time.
I know you're a busy guy and you got a lot going on, but I try to say this to everybody who I kind of like what they're doing. If there's any way we can help you, even if you're not sure if that's a way we can help you, just reach out to us. Let us know.
Word. Okay. Will do. Well, thanks everyone, and it's been fun.
It's been fantastic. Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you again pretty soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. In just a minute here, we're going to have Nathan the creator, come on and hang out with us. But while we get that all set up, we're going to go ahead and play a song here. And I think we're going to play an off-world song, and it's going to be called Talk About UFOs. Sort of the unofficial theme song of this evening's festivities.
about UFOs. He was going to Roswell, and as far as I know, he got in touch with the sheriff's department. They in turn called the Air Force.